Hey Fearminimalist, it's Sophia Lark of the Fearminimalist.com, providing trauma recovery tools to help women of color heal the mother wound. So if you think you need your mother or any other significant family member to heal mother wound trauma, I'm going to share in this video what you actually need to achieve recovery, so keep watching. For the best trauma recovery tips, tools, and strategies, be sure to hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell so that you will never miss a video when I upload new content every single week. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. If this is your first time here, I am a survivor of mother wound trauma, a licensed professional counselor, a certified clinical trauma professional, helping women of color resolve the effects of mother wound trauma and build resilience. So for many Black and brown women, our mothers parented us through a patriarchal and marginalized paradigm that pigeonholed us into these subservient and self-sacrificing roles that kept us small, that kept us on the fringes and dependent. Now, did they know that they were doing this? I don't think so. Probably not. The mother wound is typically intergenerational. So meaning that it is passed down from one generation to the next with no one really saying, is this right? Is this something that makes sense? Now, that can really apply to any woman, really, particularly if you live in the United States or you live in Canada or the UK. But the difference with Black and brown women is that there's an element of race that gets glossed over, but it is so essential to who we become as women and how our mothers end up parenting us. A lot of their approach to parenting is out of survival, because they were subjected to so many types of treatment because of stereotypes about what a Black woman is, what a Latinx woman is, what a Native woman is, what an Asian woman is. Because of that element of race that also exists in the mother womb, there was a particular parenting style that many of our mothers took. Now, all of this doesn't have to do with race. We know this. But you always, when we're talking about Black and brown women who have the mother wound, the historical context of race must always be considered, because the element of colonialism and slavery and Jim Crow and genocide campaigns played into how parents and mothers in particularly felt that they needed to parent their children in order to keep them alive. We were discouraged from exploring our own interest. Our individuation, or what you call autonomous selfhood, the freedom to control our own lives, was stunted. And basically we were tasked or forced to carry on these relational exchanges that severely damaged our sense of safety, connection, and trust in relationships. So in other words, you become the shell that exists primarily to carry out the wishes and the values and the desires of your mother, whose own ideas and messages are entrenched in a marginalized legacy. So, you learn to shrink yourself, not have any goals. And if you somehow manage to express some type of interest in something outside of her values and wishes, you try to, exhibit or exert a little bit of independence, that gets shamed. Maybe a dynamic of guilt or doubt gets created around that. And so essentially, you shrink yourself and say, okay, I better fall in line. Or you've never developed the ability to differentiate, to separate yourself from your mother so that the person that you were supposed to become through the trials and the tensions and the conflicts and the ultimate triumphs of childhood and adolescence remains undeveloped. And you stay stuck in this infant, childlike bond with your mother that creates this unhealthy emotional attachment that is similar to that of a trauma bond. Now, if you know what a trauma bond is, it's this unhealthy and in a lot of cases abusive relational dynamic where you are so emotionally tied to the abuser that you forego your own needs and happiness to be with this person. And there may be a desire to want to break away, but you just can't, because how that cycle or that bond perpetuates itself is through this repeated cycle where there are alternations between kindness and intimacy and abuse. So it creates this confusion where you're asking yourself, is this love, or is this something else? Because I can't tell. I liken it to a narcissist who love bombs the partner and then totally goes off the grid, ignores you, invalidates you, don't call you, whatever it is. That's the abusive element. And then they see that you're so desperate to get back in their good graces and to have them in your life in some capacity that they sprinkle little crumbs of love out there. So they kind of hoover you back in, right? That's what the emotional bond between the mother and the child is when you have a mother wound. So while you're innately wired for connection, to seek closeness with and support from significant others, this desire to connect is actually distorted through the mother wound due to your mother's repetitive, developmentally inappropriate responses to your needs over time. And so if no one intervenes, say like a coach or a therapist or a healthy, securely attached family member, if no one of that ilk intervenes between you and your mother during this developmental time, what happens is that that insecure dynamic continues to perpetuate, and you end up carrying this insecure attachment style into adulthood that makes it difficult for you to build and maintain healthy relationships. And therein lies the problem, because in order to heal the mother wound, you need healthy relationships. You don't necessarily need your mother. You don't necessarily need other family members, but you need some type of healthy relationships that helps you to get the practice of what it feels like for somebody to show up on time, for somebody to keep their word, for someone to co-regulate, to help you calm yourself, that nervous system, to help you self-soothe when you're triggered. And the only way you can get that practice is with another healthy person who is securely attached. So that is what you need to heal the mother wound. You don't need your mom. You don't need other family members, especially if these people are the primary source of your distress. You need healthy attunement, a healthy relationship that provides the foundation for you to practice repeatedly, because the mother wound gets created through this repetitive process. And so you need these repeated experiences of healthy interactions with another securely attached individual where you can lay that foundation for healing the mother wound. All right, so you might be saying, okay, now I know what I need. I need healthy relationships to heal the mother wound. So how do I find these relationships? I mean, that is a battle in itself, because healthy relationships are not just out there. If they were, well, we may not be having this conversation. Healthy relationships have to be built through trust. They have to be built through boundaries that are supported on both sides, through independent voices. Everybody has their own voice. You can express your interests with support and validation. Those are the kinds of ways that you can tell if a relationship is healthy. But how can you tell if a relationship is toxic? So I always say the way that you begin to build these healthy relationships is to really know the difference, between a healthy and a toxic relationship. And I mentioned some of those things a few seconds ago. There's trust, there's support, there's validation, there is independent voices, there are boundaries, autonomy, the intimacy on various levels. But how do you know if it's toxic? Some people say, well, I know a toxic relationship when I say that's why I'm here, because I know what toxicity is and I don't want toxicity anymore. And so I said, tell me what a toxic relationship is to you. And also, one where there's no respect. People belittle you, they criticize you, they don't respect your boundaries. You feel like you're walking on eggshells around this person because if you express how you really feel, you might get criticized or shamed. And the list goes on and on. So, yes, those are some elements of toxicity. Here's what often gets missed. In response to that toxicity, what are your boundaries? What are your ways of communicating that that's totally and completely unacceptable to you? Because what a lot of times specifically when we're talking about the mother wound, between mother and daughter, there's a recognition of the toxicity, but there is no plan and no follow through for how you're going to deal with that toxicity. And that is why you feel unable to break that tie, that bond between you and your mother. So it's not only defining what it looks like, what's this, and this, but also toxicity is the lack of something. It's the lack of boundaries. It's the porous boundaries. It is the lack of the ability to communicate effectively. And so that's what you have to consider. Another thing that you can do to build healthy relationships is to join local or even online support groups or forums of people who are like-minded that share your interests and passions. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be around the mother wound. If you find a group that people talk about the mother wound, well, you might be able to find friends there. That's sort of the obvious direction, right? But what about things, like I said, like-minded interests and passions? Maybe you like to hot air balloon. You might find some friends in that capacity. Yoga, basket weaving, it really doesn't matter. Finding a group to connect with where they have regular meetings, where you guys come together not just to talk about, things, although that's great. That's how you sort of get to know one another, right? But you actually do activities together. It's one of the hallmarks of building intimacy. When you talk about intimacy, we're not just talking about, people think of intimacy, it's always this sort of romantic, in this romantic sense. But intimacy really starts experientially. You experiencing something with a person, an activity, something that you're doing together. Maybe you're creating a project together. Intellectual intimacy, where the meeting of the minds are coming to create something of value and of worth to you and to the other person. And then the emotional intimacy, how well you're able to respond to each other's emotions, their feelings, how you validate those, how you offer support in that way. And then typically when you have those types of intimacies, it lays a foundation for the more romantic intimacy. Personally, for me, that's what it has to come to. You can't have this romantic type of intimacy without the others. There has to be some kind of commonality there. So anyway, that's another way that you can develop healthy relationships. Another one is, and people sometimes, this is so obvious that you kind of overlook it, is developing a healthy relationship with yourself. How is your ability to validate your own experiences, your ability to see your own contributions in a positive light? How well do you do that? How do you take care of yourself on a daily basis? How do you set the tone for your day when you wake up in the morning? I'm going to do a video in a few weeks on what I call physio nurturing. And this is one of the things that I do every single morning to set the tone for my day. I wake up and I ground myself. I orient myself to the here and the now. Make sure I'm well grounded. I can feel my feet on the ground. I can do those kinds of things. And then I just go into physio nurturing. I'll pull on my earlobes. And I'll cover my eyes and apply pressure a little bit to feel that sense of the pressure creates a sort of relaxing and calming effect. I'll shake out my hands and my fingers, my arms and my elbows. I'll cradle my face. I'll do those kinds of things. And that really helps you to ground yourself. It's almost like a meditative practice where you're just sort of being aware of how you're feeling as you're doing those things. And nothing else really computes at that point. So you can do those kinds of things. And so, as I mentioned, I'll do a video on that. It'll be a full video so you can get all of the techniques. You're not missing anything right now. So don't worry about it too much. If you're like, oh, just keep going, we'll create a video for you. So anyway, that is really how you build these healthy relationships. So you know what healthy relationships look like, and then you being able to define those and to understand sort of how you can play a role in bringing those about. And then you join different activities where people are sharing in the things that you really like and you're interested in, and that you want to create a conversation around. You want to create relationships out of. And then make sure that you develop a healthy relationship with moi, right? With yourself. Because that is essentially what will allow you to sense what it feels like in this co-regulatory relationship with someone else, what that feels like to have that as the norm. And once you have that, the idea really starts to fade away of having this fantasized relationship with your mother that doesn't exist, and that probably won't ever exist. So now you know how to heal the mother wound with no mom or family support. And if you want to go deeper in creating this holistic mother wound healing experience, be sure to join the Fearminimalist Success Community to get the latest training videos, worksheets, and support resources to help you not just make the connection between your struggle and the mother wound, but to also get the tools that you need to create this experience that follows you throughout your journey. Just click the link below to get access to that community. Also, I wanted to invite you to connect with me on Instagram at Fearminimalist and Facebook at Fearminimalist, where we can carry on the conversation in more depth about healing the mother wound. All right, that'll do it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you liked this video, hit the like button below, share with your friends, drop a comment below to let me know what you took away from this video. Is there anything that you are desperate to implement from the steps in this video? If so, get started. If you have any more questions about some other suggestions that you may have wanted to hear, just let me know in the comments below. Last but not least, be sure to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell so that you'll never miss a video when I upload new content every single week. And remember that the sun is going to rise and shine bright tomorrow. The question is, are you going to rise with it and allow your best self to shine? I hope you do, and I'll see you next time. Bye.